person who's been criticising this the most politically for quite a long time is Nigel Farage, leader of Reform. He was over in Washington yesterday talking to American politicians about the state of freedom of speech in this country, and he raised the case not just of Lucy Connolly, imprisoned for over a year for a tweet, but also that of Graham Linehan. Well, let's talk about that with Amy Gallagher. She's a commentator at the New Culture Forum and joins us once again. Good morning to you, Amy.
Morning, Julia.
Thanks for joining us. First up, let's talk about what did Nigel Farage have to say to those Washington members of Congress about the state of freedom of speech in this country?
Yeah, so he started off by referencing J.D. Vance's speech, which was given in Munich in February of this year, where he really raised the alarm about threats to free speech in Europe and in the UK, referencing particularly the abortion buffer zones. Of course, since then, things have gotten a lot worse, unfortunately. We've seen the censorship of the Online Safety Act here in the UK, the imprisonment of Lucy Connolly and the fact that she lost her appeal to be released early. And then, of course, this recent example, Graham Linehan, that to me is one of the most egregious and authoritarian examples of crackdown on free speech we've ever seen. And that's actually saying a lot. And Nigel Farage made a very good point that Graham Linehan is an Irish citizen. He's not a British citizen. So when he arrived in Heathrow and he was arrested, that effectively could happen to anyone because the tweets he made on X, Twitter, were made in America. So effectively an American person getting off the plane in the UK could be arrested for something they said by exercising their freedom of speech in America several years ago. So now, like, nobody is safe. And he made the point that this is going to have major implications for trade, for tech companies, for media companies. It really is a kind of an emergency situation, and I hope this is a tipping point because I don't know where we go from here.
Well, each time there's a case like this, Alison Pearson, The Telegraph and others, I keep thinking it's going to be a tipping point. It never seems to be. As we see on the left, usually it is on the woke left, they're very, very much in favour of freedom of speech and people not being cancelled, but it's only for people who they agree with. I'm in favour of everyone having freedom of speech, including people I vehemently disagree with, from not losing their jobs and not certainly facing criminal prosecution. But it was interesting, one of the politicians hitting back and basically saying, look, we've got attacked by Trump, your big mate Trump, you're about to have lunch with in the White House. We've got him attacking free speech in America. But of course, they've got the First Amendment under their Constitution, which does protect freedom of speech.
Yeah, and I mean, this instance of Graham Linehan being arrested, I mean, it sent shockwaves throughout not just the UK, but throughout the American press. I mean, we've seen Fox News covering it. Major TV personalities like Ben Shapiro are talking about it. And it is really, I mean, they are all making the point that thank God for their First Amendment rights, because obviously, we don't have that. And it's so concerning. And it is going to actually affect our relationship with America and how we are perceived. It's that bad, and it's so concerning, and it's so embarrassing.
I was just going to say it's embarrassing, but it's also deeply sinister. But what is really interesting is we reported this on the show yesterday. The head of the Metropolitan Police, the most senior police officer in the country, Sir Mark Rowley, he blamed politicians for putting his officers, he say, in an impossible position over online speech. He defended the 5 officers, and the quote, they were armed. The officers at Heathrow would be armed for arresting Linehan. And again, it's over tweets. But I'd say the worst one they could even remotely claim was clearly a joke about how women should punch transgender women, i.e. trans-identified men, in the balls if they use women-only spaces like toilets. I mean, again, it's quite a funny joke. The point is they say they're women, but they've actually got testicles and it would hurt. I mean, it's a joke. So obviously. But Sir Mark said, a threat to punch someone from a protected group. Oh, men, you mean? Men could be an offence, he said, but I understand the concern caused by such incidents given different perspectives on the balance between free speech and the risks of inciting violence in the real world. When it comes to lesser cases where there is ambiguity in terms of intent and harming, policing has been left between a rock and a hard place by successive governments. He says they are required to follow all lines of inquiry and take action as appropriate. Well, that's a load of nonsense, isn't it? Because they don't follow all lines of inquiry. If your bag's stolen, if your phone's stolen, if your bike's stolen, if your home's broken into, if a shoplifter is. I could probably name 50 people that I know who the police have taken no action, followed no line of inquiry whatsoever when they've been the victim of a crime. But apparently when it's a tweet, they've got no choice. This just doesn't fly with the reality we all live with, does it?
No, it's true. I mean, I agree with Mark Riley to a point in that there does need to be a change in the law
Yeah.
and the way the legislation is written, because it's written in such a subjective way that, I mean, for example, Graham Linehan was charged with inciting violence, and the way that's written is that it's whether you make someone be fearful, which is entirely subjective. So there is a point to be made about the way that these laws are drafted, but the police are responsible for this as well, because it's they're exercising their judgment of what's proportionate or not proportionate.
Yeah.
And
And
they
clearly
totally
reading those tweets, anyone with half a brain would go, this isn't proportionate. Go away, the probable trans activist who reported him. Stop wasting police time.
There needs to be a total change within the Met Police. And there needs to be training about freedom of speech. You know, we know that trans ideology has totally taken over the policing, which is probably why they acted so extreme in this instance. We never see them act that way with trans activists when they say decapitate TERFs.
Yeah, and they literally stand in front of cameras, you know, showing their faces, saying, you know, yeah, rape TERFs, punch TERFs. Yeah, apparently that's a bit more nuanced. It's weird, isn't it? Anyway, Amy Gallagher, you've always been a voice of reason on this, commentator at the New Culture Forum. Thank you very much. I'll get Philip in